Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. And also thank you for the previous speakers. That was super interesting. From the hyphen, was that what it's called, to large-scale development, and actually fits very well with the presentation that I'm going to give, which is more on how transformative partnerships, innovation, sharing knowledge can change systemic, but also change the way that we look on how we build. And maybe also a comment on the first presentation here on what we have to focus on in the future, not to make the same mistakes that we have done previously. My name is Line Schultz, and I am from Copenhagen. I am an architect and urban developer. But before I joined Velux 3 years ago, I worked as a developer. I shifted side, so to speak, and worked in real estate with development for almost 10 years. So I have this commercial side as well, besides being an architect by heart. And then I work with transformative partnerships in Velux, working with this project that you see here, Living Places. Living Places was an experiment that we did in Copenhagen in 2023 as a part of the ULI, World Capital of Architecture. And it was developed in transformative partnership with the Danish architect Effects and Atelier Engineers. And it is a proof of concept that it is possible today, with the knowledge, technology, and materials that we have available, to build much more sustainable, with a lower CO2 footprint and a better indoor climate. Okay, I already did a mistake. Okay, there you go. So we created this experiment in the acknowledgement of that we have a number of very serious key issues that is also opportunities in the building industry that we need to address. We spend 90% of our lives indoor. That is a crazy number, but that is reality. So we need to build more sustainable with materials that are healthy for us as human beings. The industry also have a significant impact on global energy consumption. This is not new. That is something that everybody knows. And we also know that the cities are growing, and we see challenges as loneliness. We see challenge on housing problems. It's not very affordable. So we need to focus on how we design in the future. When we started the development of Living Places, we created these 5 principles as a sort of a backbone or framework for how we want to develop the concept, turning the challenges into opportunities. And the 5 principles addresses the needs for benefiting something that is both healthy for the people and planet, which is the healthy building. Shared principles is about strengthening the sense of community. The simple principles is offering simple modular building systems. And adaptable principles is about creating scalable solutions. And the scalable principles is also to unlock housing for the many and not for the few. And looking into the healthy principle is expressed in what we call the people and planet model. We have in some way reconnected us from the environment that sustains us, because the built environment fails to integrate health and environmental concerns. So the building industry is designing for human health using absolutely standards, which is light, air, temperature and sound. But when it comes to planetary health, we have relied on relatively targets, ignoring the reality that human well-being cannot be separated from the health of our planet. So human health in relation to the built environment is defined through building biology, which outlines the absolute conditions for people who need to thrive indoors. So what the People and Planet model does is that it bridges these two disciplines. It integrates Earth systems, science with building biology to prove a holistic framework for creating buildings that are not only avoid harm, but also restore the system that sustain life. And the model helps create a blueprint for how we can enable the building we need for the planet that we want. So this is the broken equation towards a holistic approach where human and planetary health are not separated but designed, measured and achieved together. And this underlines what the concept behind living places is, and the way that we want to change the way that we think about buildings. So I won't go into details on the project itself, but I will focus on the next steps on the project, which is the work that we do together with the building industry, sharing the knowledge from living places. And they used the approach that I described before. We have achieved a 3 times lower CO2 footprint, a 3 times better indoor climate, and we did it at market price. So this is the experiment. So we don't have to wait for the future to build far more sustainable for both people and the planet. It's not really rocket science, it's more like common sense. But we need to create houses that are healthy, affordable, but also beautiful to live in. So the scalable model is built that we are sharing with the industry, and come back to that, is that we have 3 years of research and design. It's a library of parts that have been researched, have been tested and benchmarked, and every component has been benchmarked for CO2, for costs, using a full life cycle data to find the lowest carbon impact at a competitive price. And the reason why I'm talking about it in this way is that one thing is that we can agree on that this is a super good idea, but if we need to push the boundaries within the more commercial side of the industry, in the building industry, we have to show that this is also a competitive advantage. So we are sharing this model for creating impact with pioneering partners in the industry who have the willingness, but also the courage to change business as usual, enabling to stay ahead and set new standards. And looking at the building industry today, we see that there is a turning point in the industry. Adaptation will determine who stays competitive as the conditions in the world are changing. And because the conditions are changing, cost is increasing. Carbon prices have risen over 360% and are still climbing, making high emission construction increasingly expensive. Volatility is a new normal. You all have seen that. Market shocks are more frequent and severe. And the next one will be probably more severe than the previous one. Capital is moving. We see that capital is shifting from low carbon assets. What's cheapest today might be the hardest to finance tomorrow. It's also widely known, and you also know that as an architect, that CO2 reduction has been seen as a burden in the industry, but we also now beginning to see that it has a competitive advantage. We see that healthy low-emission buildings have a commercial impact. It increases profits. We see that low-emission earn more. Sit vacant less and deliver higher returns. We also see that it affects lower operation cost and regulatory insurance because they use less energy, they need fewer upgrades and cost less over time. And that is a preferred capital. By capital is cheaper financing, higher ratings, low emission portfolios, unlock cheaper capital and higher long-term value. It's not something that I just invented. It's actually something that we know. So to recap what we actually want to achieve with Living Places, I've done this experiment and why we want to share it and why we see it has a potential. We can see that it actually can reduce risk for the more commercial side of the industry, so that will be the partners that we're working with in the industry, the developers and PHPs and investors. And we can see that it is, when you use a proven model, instead of starting from scratch each time, we stay ahead of the regulation, we can avoid stranded assets, and secure a long-term resilience. We can also setting new standards and bringing, being an early mover also give us an influence at the market. We can unlock the higher return of investment for the partners, cheaper capital. And we also need to build buildings that are loved by people and the planet at the same time, and of course by the market. So we think and believe that with a concept like this, where we have this holistic approach, we also unlock new possibilities. And what we want to see is that Living Places expanding in various topologies towards spin-off projects, offering new scalable solution and commercial impact. And we have already entered quite a few partnership agreements with partners across Europe and beyond, such as developers, house builders, non-profit organizations, and affordable housing federations. And our partners are using this proven model instead of starting from zero. And that way we create what we call a ripple effect, from one project to an ecosystem, a collective intelligence where innovation multiplies. And we already have 8 partners, as you can see here. We have a couple of in Denmark, we have in UK, in Holland, US, Germany. And we are creating this network of partners where the knowledge sharing will keep on growing and be shared among the partners. And we are beginning to see how the partners are using the method and approach across Europe, and how it's beginning to deliver results. For example, we have used the Living Places method in a renovation project in France, Living Attic, which demonstrate that it's not only for new build, it's a methodology that is not only limited to be used in new build, but it also can be used in renovation and transformation. So it's scalable in terms of not only size, but also typology. So what we see is that the partners that we are entering these partnership agreements with, can achieve this to reduce risk, and instead of starting from scratch, as I said, increase speed, because we need speed to solve some of the problems that we see in the building industry. And of course, for the partners, it's important that they can raise in assets. So to give you just a quick insight in what is that we actually are sharing. So we, of course, are giving full access to the Living Places methodology and data, which is quite a lot. And then, of course, we deliver a lot of support. Then we also offer to be a part of this cross-industry cooperation, and that is quite important, I think, because it has a potential that we can accelerate the speed and the innovation Instead of we are doing it by ourselves, we are sharing. And we also offer a co-branding, a lot of PR. We are backed by many awards for this project. Living Places have received a lot of global press, and we have more than 12,000 visitors when Living Places was in Copenhagen. So it gives Living Places partner to a sort of an ecosystem of living places. Yeah. And Living Places partner already beginning to making impact, and I just want to show you here in the last minutes the first sort of project that you can see using the Living Places methodology. And I must say, it wasn't meant to look like Living Places, but the partner was so inspired. But it could look differently, because it's not about architecture. It's more a methodology, a way of thinking, rather than sort of fixed spaces. But they fell in love with the architecture, and so they built the first project. That did a prototype back in 24 in the north of Holland, called Thorup. And they've been working really hard with this project, and they have achieved now to offering 5 different categories in affordable housing. It's called smyk. It means coziness in Dutch, because we called the houses hygge, which is a very Danish word in Denmark. So they called it smyk, which means beautiful in Danish, by the way. And they actually have also become farmers, because they own land where they grow cattail and harvest cattail and use it for insulation in the building, which means that they have achieved an ultra-low CO2 footprint and a quite good indoor climate, which was some of the targets of the project. So the concept or the project here is a sort of a proof of how knowledge sharing, how transformative partnerships can change how we think about construction in the future. And Dijkstra have achieved to design a new project that are healthy for not only the planet, but also for us as human beings, and actually also for the economy. So we will continue sharing the knowledge. Each year we are entering new partnerships with different partners across the world. Each time we enter a new country, we do a benchmark, so that we benchmark for each country, region, so we know where to improve using the methodology from Living Places. And of course our hope is that we see this expand and inspire for how we can move faster, saving the planet, creating more healthy homes for us by sharing knowledge in the industry. Thank you.